When you think of an expensive living room, you probably picture designer furniture, marble, and maybe a chandelier. But expensive doesn't always mean good design. Some of those spaces feel cold or staged, while others feel layered, warm, and effortless even when they cost far less. In this video, we're breaking down what actually makes a living room feel expensive. I've broken it down into 3 acts: the foundation, the form, and the finishing touches, so you can see exactly how designers built that expensive look layer by layer. Most design mistakes start here. When the rug is too small, the sofa too big, or the art is tiny, your room instantly feels cheaper, no matter how beautiful the pieces are. It's like wearing a tailored suit versus something loose off the rack. Same fabric, totally different impression. When the scale and proportion is right, it quietly signals that everything was designed to fit your space. Scale is simply the size of each piece in relation to the room itself. Bigger rooms can handle larger, heavier furniture. Think generous sofas, wide rugs, and ornate statement lighting. Smaller rooms need lighter profiles and pieces that visually open up the space. It sounds obvious, but many people get it wrong on both ends. Buying furniture that is too small for a large space makes the room feel underfurnished and awkward, while oversized, bulky pieces in a small space crowd everything out. The key is matching visual weight to the size of the room. If you've got a big living room, don't be afraid to fill it with multiple armchairs, a second sofa, or even a larger rug to make it feel balanced and intentional. If your space is tight, focus on streamlined designs with open bases or legs so light can pass through. It will still feel grounded without feeling heavy. Proportion, on the other hand, is about how each piece relates to one another. You might have the perfect sofa, but if the side table is almost as deep as the sofa itself, it will feel off. If the coffee table is the same length as the sofa, the visual hierarchy disappears, and everything is fighting for attention. As a general rule, the grounding piece should always be larger than what sits near or on it. The rug should be wider than the sofa wider than the coffee table, and the TV unit wider than the TV. It is a simple logic our brains are wired to read. Imagine a skyscraper with a narrow base or an upside-down mountain. It just feels unstable, right? When the larger pieces anchor the smaller ones, the whole room instantly feels calmer and more deliberate. After sunset, lighting becomes your most important element. Every expensive living room understands that it's not just about brightness, it is about the atmosphere. Harsh light flattens the space while layered light gives it depth and the cozy vibe we all strive for. Now, you've probably heard about layering light: ambient, task, and accent. And while that is true, I have a far more practical approach for living rooms. Put lamps anywhere you actually do something, and on surfaces wherever you can. Places where you do something usually means beside your sofa, armchair, or window seat. Anywhere you read, chat, or unwind. A floor lamp, table lamp, or wall sconces here does more than add light. It creates intimacy and rhythm in the space. And then there are your surfaces: sideboards, bookshelves, consoles, or TV units. These are perfect spots for lamps because you can plug them in discreetly and hide the cords. And if you don't have an outlet, portable lamps are a game changer. You can move them around to wherever the room feels dark or flat. Aim to have 1 or 2 light sources that diffuse light, like a linen or paper shade that softens the glow. The goal isn't to make everything evenly bright, it's to create gentle pockets of light around the room. You can always flick on the ceiling light when you need to clean or find something, but most of the time, the room should glow in layers, not blazing bright like a warehouse. Once you've got those core lamps in, take it up a notch with lighting surfaces and objects. Use a picture light above artwork, a wall washer grazing a wall, or even an uplight behind plants to add depth. These are techniques that are commonly used in high-end spaces. And then there's the mood of the light itself. Stick to warm bulbs between 2700 to 3000 Kelvin or under, so everything feels soft and inviting. Mixing cool and warm bulbs in the same room makes even great design look disjointed. And if you can, install dimmers, because being able to change the brightness of a light is a total game changer. Most people start with color when they decorate, because it is exciting and easy to visualize. But here's the truth: texture matters more. You can have the most beautiful color palette in the world, but if everything in your room is smooth and flat, it is going to look as lifeless as a stock photo. Texture changes how light interacts with surfaces. It adds shadow, depth, and movement. It is what separates a room that looks expensive and layered from one that looks one-dimensional. The easiest way to add texture is to prioritize natural materials. Think wool over acrylic, real timber over MDF, linen over polyester. For the living room, I always focus on 3 main textural anchors. Underfoot, start with a nice textural rug. It's not a must, but it helps anchor and soften the space. Soft layers. Add drapery to your windows, cushions or throws in different weave and material on the sofa, and mix the material of your upholstery. Material contrast. Mix matte with a touch of sheen or rough with smooth surfaces. The tension gives the room life without shouting for attention. The biggest mistake I see is when people try to fix a flat room by piling on random textured accessories. A bouquet cushion here, a ceramic bowl there. By then, it is too late. Texture has to live in your major pieces. Your sofa, rug, drapery, table, not just in the decor. And finally, avoid going all in on one novelty texture. We've seen it with boucle everything. When one texture dominates the whole room, it goes from tactile to trendy. Always mix and match different materials to create that tension and contrast. Curtains and window furnishings are one of the most powerful ways to make your living room look expensive. They take up a huge visual area, so treat them as part of the architecture, not just an afterthought. When you walk into a room and the windows are dressed well, it immediately feels elevated, even before you've noticed the furniture. But when the curtains are too short, too narrow, or hung at the wrong height, it has the opposite effect. It visually shrinks the room and cheapens everything around it. Here's the rule of thumb I follow. Mount high, span wide, and add fullness. Mount your drapery as close to the ceiling as possible to visually stretch the wall, and extend the rod several inches past the window frame so the opening feels larger. The panels themselves should have at least double the width of the window, so they form gentle, even folds instead of pulling tight like bed sheets. Those little details instantly makes the window feel tailored and generous. Beyond curtains, don't forget that there are other types like Roman shades, shutters, or roller blinds, which can also play a huge role. Consider the material, color, and pattern so they look cohesive with the rest of the space. Now that we've built the foundation, scale, lighting, texture, and drapery, it is time to move into Act 2, the form, where we shape the room through curves, art, and walls. Most living rooms are rectangles filled with more rectangles. Boxy sofas, rectangular rugs, square coffee tables, a TV, and a boxy unit. And when every single line in the room is straight, the space starts to feel stiff, even if it is beautifully decorated. That is where curves come in. A few well-placed curves can completely change the mood of a room. Designers love them because they make spaces feel inviting and easy to move through. And because curved or sculptural pieces signal effort and uniqueness, as they're harder to make than a simple box. You could add an oval coffee table, a round side table, or an arch mirror. Even small curves make a big difference, especially in tight areas or pathways where they help you glide around furniture instead of dodging sharp corners. Decor pieces like a lamp, wall sconce, vase, or a bowl can also help break all the stiff edges in your space. But like everything in design, moderation is key. If every piece is curved, you're back at square one. Literally, aim to introduce some curve element into the space, but don't go overboard with all squiggly lines. Art is one of the fastest ways to make a living room feel expensive, but the trick is to choose art with presence. You don't need a whole gallery wall. One large confident piece usually feels more luxurious than a dozen small ones. It gives the room an anchor and simplifies your layout. That doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune. You can find incredible pieces secondhand, download digital art and print it large, or even find local artists in a more reasonable price range. What matters is scale and placement. Choose art that actually resonates with you, not just random pieces you see off the shelf. When you connect to a piece, two things can happen. First, you can build your color palette directly from it, which makes the whole room feel cohesive. And second, it naturally ties in with the rest of your decor because it reflects your taste. The result feels more personal and more intentional. If you already have several smaller pieces you love, you can group them intentionally as a gallery wall so they read as one composition. But one trick that I really like is using a small piece to intentionally draw attention somewhere. This is an advanced move that will require some trial and error, but if done well, it can have a surprisingly big impact. Most people treat walls as a plain backdrop, paint them white, hang a few pictures, and move on. But when your walls quietly do some work, suddenly they become part of the design story instead of just the background. Start with color. Even white isn't just white. It comes in dozens of shades, and the right one can completely change how your room feels. Depending on your lighting, some whites will read soft and warm, while others can look stark or cold. Always test your paint samples on multiple walls before committing. It's the easiest design upgrade that costs almost nothing. And if you want to go a step further, consider texture. Wallpaper or textured finishes like lime wash and plaster add movement and depth when light hits them. And speaking of light, don't forget to light your walls intentionally. A beautiful wall sconce can completely change how a space feels, not just through its design, but the way it casts light and shadow. Grazing light along textured walls or bouncing it upward can add instant warmth and dimension. If you're lucky enough to have gorgeous molding, try to highlight and work with it. You can of course install one to a plain wall, but make sure to do it all over the room instead of just a single accent wall. Look at this accent wall. They've added picture frame molding, just as I recommended. But it doesn't feel high-end at all. Why? Because it has no architectural logic. It's just randomly there. When you apply wall treatments inconsistently, each wall starts to feel like a competing idea instead of part of one cohesive design. The key is to make the treatment feel integrated, not random. If you add a molding, lime wash, or wallpaper, repeat it logically across the room or tie it into other details so the walls read as one idea. When the walls support the design, the whole space feels cohesive, calm, and quietly luxurious. Now that your walls are pulling their weight, let's talk about the glue that ties everything together. Cohesion you can actually feel. One of the easiest ways to make a room feel well designed is through quiet repetition. That is by repeating tones, textures, and materials, but with enough variation to keep it interesting. This could mean using the same wood tone or the same type of wood across different types of furniture, or a brass finish that appears on cabinet handles and also across multiple light fixtures. This could also be an accent color, like a muted green that is subtly echoed in a pillow, a ceramic vase, and a book spine. Our brains are wired to find that kind of consistency soothing. That is why cohesive rooms feel calmer and ultimately more expensive. The goal isn't to match them exactly, but to repeat them just enough that it builds a flow, which helps your eye to move gently around the space instead of stopping randomly because something looks jarring and out of place. If you're unsure whether your space is cohesive, try this quick test. Stand in the doorway and scan the room. If you can name your main wood tone, metal finish, and accent color in under 10 seconds, you're good. If not, you either have an eclectic collection, which is fine if you know how to pull it off, or you might have too many competing elements. The best part is that cohesion makes every decision easier. Once your palette and finishes are defined, decorating stops being guesswork, because every new piece either fits the story or it doesn't. Room corner, fireplace, and windows might not traditionally be functional spaces, but they still contribute to the overall rhythm of the room. Now, I'm not saying that you should style every corner, because negative space is just as important. It lets the eye rest and gives the space some breathing room. But when a gap feels accidental instead of intentional, that is when the space starts to feel unfinished. The goal is to simply make these forgotten spots feel purposeful. For example, a corner could become a reading nook with a slender chair, a floor lamp, and a small side table. An empty wall section might turn into a landing zone with a sideboard, a lamp, and artwork. Even a single floor lamp or tall plant can fill an awkward gap and bring the space back into balance. Just be mindful not to fill dead zones with lots of small, unrelated decor, as it quickly looks cluttered. The best rooms have a story. They include objects that mean something: a handmade bowl from your travels, family photos, a vintage chair you restored, a painting from a local artist, or even a family heirloom. These details instantly make a space feel more grounded and more yours. What cheapens a room faster than anything else are the random meaningless knickknacks that fill shelves for the sake of filling them. You don't need more stuff, you need the right stuff. The things you actually value and enjoy seeing every day. I often get messages from people asking how to include their collections. Things like figurines, movie posters, or sentimental pieces without ruining the aesthetic of the room. But the point isn't to design a home that just looks expensive. It is to design one that feels good to live in. The key is in how you display them. Frame the poster instead of taping it bare, or group your collection neatly on a sideboard or in a display cabinet. When you treat personal objects with that level of care, they'll always look intentional. A good rule of thumb is simple. If an item isn't functional, beautiful, or personal, it probably doesn't deserve a spot on display. Let meaningful pieces stand on their own and give them breathing room. That is what makes them feel elevated. Curated rooms read as more expensive because they show discernment and care. They tell your story without shouting it. And that quiet confidence always feels luxurious. And when the visible details are done, what really completes the sense of calm and quality are the invisible ones, the little things you don't see but definitely feel. What really makes a living room feel calm and polished usually isn't what you notice, it is what you don't. These quiet details work in the background to make your space feel effortless. Start with cords and clutter. Hidden cables, tidy surfaces, and smart storage do more for a room than most people realize. It is about keeping visual noise low so your eye can rest. Have a plan for cords before you start styling. Use channels, run them behind furniture, or paint them to match the walls. And for everyday mess, lean on closed storage, baskets with lids, cabinets, or a sideboard to hide the overflow. Next, think about sound. Calm spaces sound calm. Soft furnishings like rugs, curtains, and upholstery help absorb echoes and balance the acoustics. They don't just look good, they make your home feel more comfortable and grounded. And finally, scent. It is the one design element that people rarely talk about, but it completely changes how a space feels. A subtle, consistent scent adds warmth and familiarity. If strong fragrances aren't your thing, clean air and good ventilation works just as well. When these quiet details work together, clear surfaces, soft acoustics, warm light, and a gentle scent, your home starts to feel balanced and intentional. It is a final layer that makes a room not just look designed, but feel deeply comfortable to live in. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video on the non-negotiables for a beautiful space, and this video where I tackle various subscriber spaces. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.